There's a question here about wanting you to say a little more about mass action. Can you talk more about your vision for another mass action calling for nuclear disarmament modeled after June 12th, 1982 in Central Park? Could you say more about that, Scott?
Sure. I mean, again, I'm just honest about my roots, and that I'm not a natural fit for mass action, but I recognize the importance that mass action plays and can play in something like this, using the June 1982 Central Park rally as an example. Look, we have an election in 2024, national election, and it's an election that is going to it's going to define the trajectory that this nation takes together with Russia regarding peace. In 2026, the New START treaty, the last remaining nuclear arms treaty between the United States and Russia, expires. And there's no chance to automatically extend it as in the past. It needs to be renegotiated. We're not talking right now. My experience as an arms control specialist is that you need 3 to 5 years to negotiate an effective treaty. Now, maybe with New START, if they sought minimal modifications to the treaty, you could shrink that, but you still have to begin sooner rather than later. It's not happening right now. It's probably not going to happen until after the next election, which means it'll be the next president who will have that burden put on him or her. I think it's imperative that the American people send a signal to the future president of the United States, whether it's Joe Biden upon re-election, whether it's somebody from the Republican Party, whether it's an independent candidate. That's up to the American people to decide. But what we can do is let them know that our top priority as a nation, as a people, is the preservation of our life, and that we recognize the dangers of nuclear war, the dangers of nuclear weapons. We live in an age, Americans need to reflect on this. Joe Biden ran on a policy of returning America to the sole purpose doctrine, meaning that the sole purpose of American nuclear weapons, whereas JFK talked about nuclear deterrence, that we have these weapons to deter others from using nuclear weapons against us. We were configured so that we would ensure the destruction of anybody who did attack us. That's what deterrence is. If you attack us, you will die. And we need that, but we drifted away from that after 9/11. We had a president, George W. Bush, who instead embraced a nuclear posture that brought in an element of preemption, that we could preemptively use nuclear weapons in a non-nuclear environment. Basically, anytime we decided that a threat existed that needed this, weapons of mass destruction, later it's been upgraded to cyber, but it could be just about anything. And to show you the absurdity of this, during the Trump administration, a senior Trump administration arms control official from the Department of Defense spoke at the Arms Control Association. And I think I'm getting this quote accurately. He said, "It is the goal of the Trump administration to make sure that every morning Russian and Chinese leaders wake up, they don't know if this is going to be the day that America nukes them." That's insanity. That is literally the definition of insanity. That policy still exists today. The same policy of preemption that allowed an American government official to speak in this manner exists today. And understanding that while administrations change, to give you another, in December of last year, there was a reunion of the INF treaty, and a senior Biden administration arms control official spoke at this reunion. And at that reunion, we asked the question, what about sole purpose doctrine? Biden ran on that. Why isn't it being implemented? He's the president, he's the commander in chief. Why can't he make that happen? The answer was because the interagency wasn't ready. Now, when I was back in the government, the interagency was a process. It wasn't a living, breathing entity. But the way this person spoke of it is the interagency is an entity. It's its own thing. Nobody in America voted for this. It's not an extension or expression of the will of the American people, but it exists today, and it's powerful enough to be able to veto a president who says he wants to do an important policy initiative. The interagency can say no. And the reason why I bring this up is it was the interagency and empowered Trump's team to speak of wanting Russians and Chinese to wake up every morning fearing whether or not this is the day America will nuke them. That same interagency is in place today without any meaningful change. And so that attitude exists today at this time. We need to send a signal to whomever is going to lead us that this is unacceptable, that we reject that notion, that we will not allow America to posture itself where we are irresponsibly threatening world powers with nuclear annihilation on a daily basis. That's not what nuclear deterrence is about. So we need to bring a return to normalcy, to sanity. And the only way we can do that is through mass action. And this is why I've been calling for a repeat of the Central Park gathering. Whether it can be done in Central Park, I think, permitting and things like that make it difficult, but we can collectively, at a date and time of our collective choosing, choose a mass action that brings millions of Americans to the street, united in the belief that we must re-embrace arms control, that we must make nuclear disarmament one of our top policies, and that this is the issue upon which Americans will be deciding whom to vote for in 2024. If we can do that, I do believe we have a chance to get the next administration positioned to take meaningful action on restoring New START, beginning responsible dialogue with the Russians about arms control, and beginning the process that more closely resembles the model of interaction that JFK was speaking about through his American University speech.
Thanks. Another question is,